So we're looking really at the conceptual understanding of physics in this class. I'm going to remind you of the 4 rules for producing questions. I request that you take the time to ask as many questions as you can. Number 1. Number 2, you do not stop to discuss, judge, or answer the questions. Number 3, whoever is writing the questions, please write down every question exactly as stated. And then if it's a statement, please change it into a question. My final rule is to also number your questions. Transformers, like the one shown there in that picture, and you'll see them all over your neighborhood, reduce the voltage to 120 volts for home use.
So the second one is why, or how does it transform the energy?
Who supplies transformers?
Like who makes them?
Yeah, who makes them? Where do they get the electricity? How many transformers are around cities?
Are the transformers dangerous?
It's just fun to see the banter between them, and I'll notice students are building off each other's questions or taking questions in slightly different directions. So there's a real connection of the minds at that point between them, I think is really powerful.
An open-ended question is a question that can be answered with an explanation. And a closed-ended question is something that's a one-word answer, like yes or no, or a time.
How do they transform power?
Open.
Why do we use 120 volts at home? It's kind of closed too.
Open, because
It depends how long the
different
street
size streets have different.
So when we started it the first time, it was really a way for us to reflect on what we mean about questions and what we're looking for. And students, I think, there was a sort of an aha moment, we can use closed questions for some things. They help us understand some things really well as we're trying to maybe just figure out the basics. And open questions are things that we can sort of reflect on and share as a group and expand on. And having students then go back and look at their questions in that way, I think really helps them think about where they're going to look for those answers. So I want you to choose 2 questions. One has to be open, one has to be closed. Choose an open question and transform it into a closed-ended question. Take a closed-ended question and transform it into an open-ended question, please. All right? Remember, the next step is I want you to go back and review all your questions, and I'd like you to choose what are the 3 most important to you and your group. First, you're going to share out your 3 priority questions. You're going to share out your reason for choosing those 3 priority questions, and then also share out the 2 questions that you flipped.
Our closed to open was who makes the transformers, and we changed that to how do they make the transformers.
And our open to closed was how do they fix them to who fixes them.
First priority question is number 2. How is voltage reduced?
We chose this because there's a very big difference between 345,000 to 120 and how it gets from one to the other.
Is any energy lost in the process?
Rationale for that one?
We chose that one because the prompt was talking about how this huge amount of energy is into your house in just 120 volts, which is a really big difference. So we wanted to know what happens to all the energy and where it goes or if any of it's lost.
Having them focus those down allows them to pursue those questions in a way that is meaningful to them. Lots of really provocative and interesting questions here that I would not have. It's what I like about this process. You guys always push me in new ways to think about it. Good learning involves reflecting on what we've learned and how we've learned and sharing that learning not only with ourselves but with others. I think articulating that is such a powerful process. I don't think I realized it until I did it with my students of how powerful that is when students are able to actually voice their own ideas and share them and how they've gotten there and reflecting on that it really makes it, I think it really makes it their own.
I think it definitely is especially good for science, because science is often like a really literal thing. In physics, there's rules. So when you ask questions, you can understand those rules much better.
Like for math, you would ask how you would solve a problem, but for science, you would ask how it would work.
Every discipline is about a process of understanding the world. Science has a very specific process, and I think foremost, one of the most important parts about science is knowing how to ask a question.
It allowed me to ask my own questions and figure out what I wanted to know. Kind of made me more interested in the topic.
And I think that's the great advantage of working in groups, that you get to see what other people think of and you get the surprises.
Question formulation technique has really surprised me every time I've used it. It's allowed me to really get a sense of what students are thinking about in ways that I really wouldn't have imagined.
Being able to figure out questions and your own sort of perspective on what's going on is a very important skill to have.
It opens up where students are and where they want to go and what they want to learn, and it's totally flipped a lot of how I think about my practice and how we're going to progress through the unit.